What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Welcome back to another episode of the Premier League Spur-Spective, which is the review show from Predict the Prem, where me and this guy go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. The scores at the moment getting really tight now, 248 to 257 in my favour. The way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result, and the star man is 5 points for a goal, 3 points for an assist. Once you pick that man, you cannot pick them again for the rest of the season. And let's get into the weekend's action. Nottingham Forest against Newcastle at the City Ground. Nottingham Forest finally lost at home, 2-1 to Newcastle on the day. They left it late. Me and Sim both went 1-1. Nottingham Forest did go 1-0 up in the early stages of the game, but Alexander Isak on the stroke of halftime and on the stroke of the final whistle with the penalty in the last kick of the game pretty much gives Newcastle the 3 points.
Yeah, and I think from what I've seen, obviously we weren't watching the game, but from what I've seen, they probably just about deserved the victory. Newcastle, they were the better team, and they had that goal disallowed for VAR as well before they went 2-1 up, which was a bit of a ridiculous decision in my opinion. I thought that offside was a bit ridiculous. But you do have to say, at 1-1, going into stoppage time in the 90th minute, they did get a bit of luck because it was a bit of the penalty was a bit of a crazy moment by what's his name? In Kite, I can't remember his name, the Forest defender. He kind of put his hand up where it didn't need to be. It was a cross coming into the box, and he didn't kind of have to have his hand there, and it was a ridiculous penalty to give away, literally the last kick of the game as well. And Isak sticks it away, and I think they'll probably feel like it was a reward for their good performance, but for Forest's point of view, really stupid penalty to give away in the last kick of the game.
Isak finally getting to grips with life in the Premier League?
Well, he started life really well, and then he got a bad injury, and it kind of take him time to get back into form. But now he's starting every game. Wilson, he found his place in the team because Wilson kind of has been off form for a bit, and he's taken that chance with both hands, and he looks like he's really starting to get used to the Premier League now. Newcastle are really reaping the benefits of him, and look, he's still so young, and you got to remember he's got a lot of developing to do. They signed him for big money, and I think they've got a very good young striker on their hands who's going to be their number 9 for a few years to come, I think.
Yeah, big result for Newcastle in terms of the top 4 race. I think at the time it took them 1 point behind us with 2 games in hand. But let's move on to Aston Villa against Bournemouth, which is 3-0 to Villa on the day. Both of us going for 2-1 to Villa, so we both gain a point for this one. Look, I mean, they went 1-0 up early, Aston Villa, in the 7th minute, but, you know, left it late to get that second goal in the 80th minute. 89th minute, Buendia seals the deal. I didn't see much of this game. I see Tyrone Mings got man the match, but not many chances in the game for Bournemouth, so it looks like a bit of a demolition job for Aston Villa on the day. Yeah,
I'm looking at the stats, and it seems very much one-way traffic. XG 3.66 to 1.36 in Villa's favour, 20 shots to 10, 9 shots on target to 3, so it seems as though Villa dominated. And look, we were outside the St Mary's, so we didn't watch the game, but I think Unai Emery will be very happy that in a home game against opposition who they might have struggled in on another occasion when a team sits back, and Villa under Unai Emery definitely like to counter-attack and like to have less possession, but in this game it was definitely the opposite. They took the opportunity to be on the front foot, and they do have good attacking talent at their disposal, Villa, and I think they used it to the fullest in this game, so fair play to them. Good result. Now level on points with Chelsea.
Yeah, and that puts Bournemouth level with West Ham having a game in hand in 18th and 19th. Southampton, they're a point clear of Southampton in bottom of the table. I mean, this race for relegation is really hotting up. Really
massively.
But let's move on. Next game is Brentford against Leicester. We finished 1-1 on the day. Sim went for 2-1 to Brentford. I went for 2-0 to Brentford. But credit to Leicester for plugging away and getting a point at a very hard place to go.
Very hard place, and Brentford have been in great form. They still keep up that run where I think they've only lost one, which was to Everton in the last 12 games. So I think from Brentford's point of view, you against a team like Leicester who are struggling, they'll probably expect to win the game at home, but I don't think they'll be too disappointed with a point. I think from Leicester's point of view, it's a great point away from home in a game where a team who are in form and in the top half of the table, and maybe with the form they're in, you expect them to lose. So I think Leicester will be very happy. Obviously, Maddison not back on the pitch and with a good assist for Harvey Barnes, who scored the equaliser. And I think they battled well by all accounts. It seems like they were unlucky not even to win. They did out XG Brentford, and I think with Leicester, with their attacking talent, they've always got capability of doing that. Because like when you look at their front line, Brentford would love a front line. I think like Leicester have. So they do have that in their favour.
Leicester would love Ivan Toney in their team.
Yeah, that's true. But like Maddison, Barnes, like they all get into Brentford's team, I feel. So they do have that capability, but we know as a structure, Brentford, they all work for each other. They're so hard to break down. They're very organised, and so Leicester can only get a point. But I think both teams will be fairly happy with it in this occasion.
Well, at what stage do we start talking? Well, we have spoken about it quite a few times this season, but really, realistically, like, how long does Brendan have in this job? Because the form that they're on is absolutely tragic. We thought they had turned it around just before the World Cup. They are very much flirting with relegation. So at what point do they start talking about his future?
I think they've been talking about it all season. So I think they're in terrible form. But I think he does have a lot of credit in the bank. Obviously, they won't want to go down, but they also know they're one win from 12th, as much as they're also one loss from the relegation zone. So it is so volatile and so tight. I think they'll probably just bank Rodgers to get the required amount of wins from now to the end of the season to keep him safe.
I'm seeing a lot of Leicester fans just want him gone now already. But look, he's turned it around once this season. It's kind of shocking how bad their form has been since the World Cup. But we'll see if they can turn it around. I mean, when you're looking at the teams in the relegation fight, it'll be a shock to me if Leicester go down, because they seem much better in terms of the personnel that they have in their squad than the rest of them.
Yeah, and I think when push comes to shove, when they have home games against opposition which they should be beating, I reckon they'll get enough wins to stay safe, in my opinion. I think, especially with Maddison back in and he's still playing quite well, I think they should have enough quality, albeit their form is terrible.
Yeah. Next up, Southampton against Tottenham, 3-3 on the day. We both went for 2-0 to Spurs. Nearly got a point there, but wasn't to be with a last-minute penalty.
Well, we did get a point.
Well, we got a point,
yeah.
But we didn't get a point.
Oh, wow, sorry, we didn't get a point. Sorry, yeah. Got confused there. Yeah, it was. Look, we collapsed. We've said enough. These players are selfish. You've heard it from the man himself. But look, Spurs 3-1 up with 15 minutes to go. That should be home and hosed. We crumbled under the pressure. It was really disappointing to see. For a lot of the game, we pretty much had it under control, and we were 1-0 up at half time, and then obviously we conceded straight away in the second half, but then made it 3-1, and we were comfortable. But sometimes when you're too comfortable in these games, like, it can get away from you as soon
Especially
as, like,
if your name's Tottenham Hotspur.
exactly, as soon as the opposition up it, and then you don't know how to respond. It's like that's what happens a lot of the time when a team is too comfortable but don't take full advantage, and then all of a sudden the other team can up their game and you don't really have a response. Exactly what happened to Tottenham. Really disappointing. Conte was off his rocker after the game. We all know the story. So disappointing result.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw that clip at half-time, just as before the players come out. It's doing the rounds on Sky Sports at the moment. Højbjerg is going around to this whole team going, concentrate, 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 and trying to G up his players, and within 30 seconds we'd conceded.
Yeah, 100%. Albeit it was the penalty was not a penalty. I've still seen it back so many times, and I struggled to.
Gallagher's on Sky Sports saying it was a penalty.
No, people misconstrue what he said. He didn't say it was a penalty. He said VAR can't overturn it, right, which is basically implying it was, but there was. I don't see any contact personally. I think, or it was very minimal, and I don't think it was a penalty. I think the referee made the wrong decision.
All right, moving on to Wolves against Leeds. Finished 4-2 to Leeds in a massive result for them down at the bottom. Sim went 2-1 to Wolves. I went 1-0 to Wolves, but really good game of football. Leeds finally getting a few goals behind them. 4 goals on the day. They've been struggling for goals recently. Jack Harrison getting himself man of the match. Johnny becoming a hero and a villain, scoring a goal and then getting sent off for a nasty, nasty challenge. Cunha, is that his first Premier League goal, I believe?
Believe so.
Yeah, he gets his first Premier League goal.
Deflection.
from a deflection, and Matthias Nunes on the bench gets sent off. So it was an action-packed game at Molineux, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Wolves will be aggrieved because they had majority of the chances and the shots. They got the more XG as well throughout the game by quite a bit, 2.78 to 1.62. But it was, I think, definitely a kind of counter-attack, smash and grab kind of performance by Leeds United, and they exploited Wolves when Wolves probably at home in a game where against relegation candidates they expected to win the game, so they probably threw a bit more caution to the wind, and Leeds exploited it. Usually Wolves, how they approach games, they're very compact, they like to hit on the counter, but I think they were dominating this game, 66% possession, and they're less comfortable in those kind of areas, I feel, Wolves, and it showed in this game that went defensively. They weren't as tight as they usually are when they're playing against maybe the bigger sides are more compact, and they got punished by a Leeds side who were devastated on the counter. Rodrigo as well coming back from injury, getting on the score sheet. So brilliant result for Leeds, and they'll hopefully want to use that as a springboard. To be fair, Javi Gracia has done okay since coming in. That's his second win since coming in as manager, and you can see like literally in the bottom half of the table, like any win you can't take for granted. Look at, considering how tight it is, one loss you could even be bottom if results don't go your way. So you can't take any win for granted when you're in the bottom half of the table right now. So very good win against a relegation rival for Leeds.
Yeah, and two impressive results in a row, drawing 2-2 with Brighton last week and backing that up with a 4-2 win away at Wolves, which leaves Leeds 14th in the table now, only a point behind Wolves, which is a massive result for Leeds, I mean. But look, by no means or by no stretch of the imagination out of it just yet, with only being 2 points above the relegation zone. So big games yet to come for Leeds, but their recent form definitely should be giving their fans encouragement, that's for sure. But Wolves, on the other hand, their form, they've lost their last two games, albeit the last game was against Newcastle. They beat us, they lost to Wolves, they lost to Liverpool and lost to Fulham and drew to Fulham. Should they be worried?
100% they should be worried. Lopetegui initially had a really good bounce, but he's found consistency hard to come by. I still think
they have had hard games.
I'm saying I still think they'll be okay. But of course, you're how many points above the drop zone? You can't not be worried. 3 points above the drop zone. How can you not be worried when you're in that position? I think anyone in the bottom 12 is going to be worried up until like they've got breathing space. As long as there's as little breathing space as there is, everyone should be worried.
Yeah, Aston Villa are probably the lowest ones that are safe.
You can win three games. You can win 3 games in a row, but if it's still as tight as that, you're going to be worried.
100%. Chelsea against Everton up next, 2-2 on the day. A late equaliser for Everton for the young boy Sims, Everton Academy graduate. Sim went 2-0, I went 2-0, and Chelsea will be very disappointed with this result. It seemed as though that potentially they were turning a corner, good results, better performances under Graham Potter. But this is going to be a kick in the teeth for the Chelsea fans, because as much as they were turning a corner at home against a team like Everton, who have been poor away from home all season, and under Sean Dyche since he's come in, they've come. Abdoulaye Doucouré gets a goal, sets one up, and Ellis Sims, the academy graduate, takes home the point to Everton.
Yeah, it was a classic, again, Sean Dyche Everton performance. It very much seemed as though they were sitting back for a lot of the game and soaking up a lot of the Chelsea pressure, and obviously Chelsea made it tell with a great finish from João Felix, and you're thinking like Everton had offered nothing at that point, and you're thinking they're just going to cruise to an easy victory. But Everton had other ideas, to be fair. Once they were 1-0 down, it's kind of like they let the shackles off a bit. They started committing more men forward and being more of a threat from set pieces, and that's why the first goal came. A really sloppy goal from Chelsea's point of view, but from Everton's point of view, a set piece which they battled and got it over the line. They then got the penalty. Chelsea went 2-up with Kai Havertz, and you're thinking, all right, Everton got their lucky goal, but that won't be enough. But to be fair, Sims came on, bulldozed his way into the penalty area, and again, from Chelsea's point of view, Kepa should be saving it, to be honest. Really poor piece of goalkeeping, but it was definitely endeavour and never say die attitude from the Everton team, which got them the point. I think yeah, I think that's exactly the kind of result that's going to keep Everton up under Sean Dyche, and it's exactly the kind of performance that will. It's not going to be from minute one having a go at the opposition. It's going to be about picking your moments to go forward and picking your moments to have a go, and exactly what Everton did. Keep it tight for as long as possible, and then if you are 1-0 down, or even if it's still 0-0, then you can have a bit of a go and try and get all the points, and that's exactly what happened. This time it worked against teams like Liverpool when they tried to do the same thing. It didn't quite work. When they had a go, they couldn't really offer anything, but this time against Chelsea it did work.
Yeah, so Everton on the back of three good results, really. 2 draws and a win. The win coming against Brentford, the draw coming away at Nottingham Forest, and another draw coming away at Chelsea. So Sean Dyche is really starting to pull the results out for Everton, and he took over them in the relegation zone. They are 2 points above the relegation zone now. So, I mean, still a lot to play for, but I think Everton fans are starting to feel a bit more hopeful now, maybe.
Not pretty, but it's effective, that's for sure. And, they'll be confident with someone like Sean Dyche at the helm. They won't be going down.
And last but not least, Arsenal 4, Crystal Palace 1. Sim went for 2-0. I went for 4-0, so nearly getting a 5-pointer there. But in this game, I thought Crystal Palace actually started the game well, and it looked as though that maybe an upset could have been on the cards, but I thought as soon as Arsenal scored, that was pretty much that, to be honest.
I agree. I think as soon as Arsenal took the lead, the heads dropped, and it was kind of like they reverted back to last week, where they've just sacked their manager, and there's a reason for that, because they've team low on confidence. They haven't won and I think this now makes it 12 games in a row they haven't won. Albeit, I have to say, I looked at all their fixtures, and there wasn't one fixture in that whole row of fixtures where I would say they were favourites for. So I did feel a bit sorry for them. Obviously, in this league, you could argue that's not an excuse, because when you've got 12 games like that, even if you're not favourites, you should be able to pick up more results than they did, and they should be able to pick up a win somewhere against teams where they're not favourites in. But I have to say, they did have really difficult games, and even the games they lost, a lot of them were by the odd goal instead of very close games, and they did get a lot of decent draws in there. So for me, I think I think they've panicked and made a mistake sacking Patrick Vieira, especially if they're considering going back to someone like Roy Hodgson, who was dreadful in his last season at Crystal Palace, and they were sick of the sight of him by the time he left. So the fact they're bringing him back, I know you could argue
that's not set in stone, is it?
No, it's not. But they're still in talks with him. Nothing's confirmed at the moment, but he's the only name in the
they were talking on the radio today about the manager who took this game taking over for the rest of the season as well.
Well, even then, that's why are you doing that? Why are you giving it to his assistant? Like, I don't understand that. For me, I would have at least given him a few games in this round. They now have a run of games against teams around them where he can really earn his money. At least give him a few of those games to try and win it back, because they only need a few wins to stay up. So I reckon he would have got it. I do think they've panicked at the fear of going down, and I think ultimately it could actually get worse for them, in my opinion, and that's what they're risking here. And I don't think under Vieira, I don't know if they would have got battered so much in this game. I reckon it might have been a bit tighter, although they probably still would have lost. But I don't know. I just feel like I understand they're in a bad situation, but they're still in 12th, and they just need a few wins, and I reckon Vieira could have got them. And if they do go back to Hodgson, I don't know, I've got a feeling he might not keep them up, because he's retired. I think his head, I don't know if his head's still there.
I think they're going to be 3 worse teams than Crystal Palace come the end of the season. I really do, with Roy or not. I think that you're right in terms of what you're saying, in terms of that they panicked. I'm looking at the games now, and look, they had no right to win any of those games. Absolutely right. Chelsea away, Man U at home, Newcastle at home, Brighton at home, Brentford away, Liverpool, Villa away, Man City, Brighton away. I mean, they didn't have any right to win any of those games.
I don't think they're favourites in any of them.
No, they're not. And when you're looking at the results, they were all very tight, either 2-1s, 1-0s or 1-1s. And then as soon as they get rid of him, they lose 4-1, albeit against top of the league. But still, I think that you're right. They have panicked, but I do feel that that they will stay up, even if Roy Hodgson comes in. I think there'll be 3 worse teams than them, and I think they can start planning for next season as well and bring in maybe one of these managers that they might be thinking of as like a Company or a Carrick or someone like that. But is that too different to Vieira?
Exactly. You literally had a good season with Vieira last season. You're still in 12th at the moment, like, which would be a good final position if you were to finish there. I know you're dropping at the moment in form, but I would have just stuck by him.
Being 12th at the moment means nothing though with how tight it is.
Correct, but at the moment, that is the position they're in with the run of games they've had as well. And even after all these losses and everything, which shows that he did a decent job first half of the season, in my opinion. So before that run of games he's had, so I would have just given my faith and stuck with him for a few more games at least. And look, I would have given maybe 3 or 4 games to say, look, you have to get at least a couple wins in these next few games against teams around you, otherwise you are gone. And then even in that case, and then you got still got 8 games to save yourself, or 7 games to save yourself, and even then you can still bank yourself getting a couple of wins in those last few games. So I would have given Vieira a tiny bit more time.
Yeah, and with players like Eberechi, Eze, Elise, Zaha, I mean, they should have more than enough firepower to stay up in this league, shouldn't they?
Definitely.
Let's move on and finish on the star men. Sim went for Emi Buendia, who got a goal in the 3-0 win for Aston Villa, and I went for Kai Havertz, who also got a goal in the 2-2 draw against Everton with that late penalty. So we both get 5 points for that one. So we finish off as we were, pretty much the same score difference, 255 to Sim, 264 for me. A bit of a break now, seeing as we are on international break. So we'll see you all for Predict the Prem in a couple of weeks. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always,
come on you Spurs.